afternoon, morning, evening, whatever it is. Right, so this one's going to be an overview of my ADHD, the autism. I was going to include the FND as well, but I think I'm going to do a separate one about that. So my journey with ADHD, autism, all my crazies. I mean, I can call it that because I'm owning it, it's mine. So some people call me crazy anyway though, so go along with it. I got my diagnosis with ADHD, autism, about 4 years ago. Some people might say the same, I always knew something was strange or whatever. There's some people who actually turn around and they go, oh, haven't we all got a bit of ADHD, haven't we all got a bit of this and that, so we're all on it and that, just to sort of bring down people who have got it in a way. Don't get me wrong, I don't like the fact that there are a lot of people getting diagnosed that I don't think have got it, because then that undermines the ones that have and how that impacts their lives, because they're just basically, I don't know, lazy people who attention seek and just want to go, poor me. I've always gone along with the fact that I wish I didn't have this. It's no superpower to me. I hate it. I'd give it back if I could, because the things it's caused me, how it's affected my life. I don't want any of them things, and if I could give it back, then I would. But such is life. You can't change certain things. They are what they are. Doing this talk now, I usually do make some notes, because that's how the ADHD affects me, is my retaining information and remembering what I want to talk about and things along them lines is shockingly bad. I have to have notes to refer back to and that, and I thought, sod it, let's just do it in its rawness and see how that goes. Now, when I say something was wrong, I knew that I was different. School, I had the intelligence, but for some reason things didn't sink into my brain. I just didn't retain any information. Going into senior school, I wanted to do well. I wanted to apply myself. I tried to revise stuff. It didn't make any difference. And then when I was trying loads of different techniques to revise and it wasn't going in, it was a bit like, well, what's the point of me revising stuff if it's not going to stay in there? So that's how it affected me in school. My attention, it wouldn't stay on something. I remember in maths, I just didn't understand what was on that paper. It didn't matter how it was explained to me, it just wouldn't go in. For some reason, times tables sort of did, but I think it's the pattern. I don't know if that's part of autism or something like that, but I like the pattern of the way it was actually put out and the way that went across. But you know, that particular teacher, complete arsehole, he just used to shout at me and just thought that I wasn't bothering, I wasn't putting the effort in. You know, you look back then and you sort of think, well, was it their fault because they just sort of think that you were just naughty or just couldn't be bothered? So there's no point trying to blame them sort of people at all, but I just couldn't get it. It didn't matter, you know, shout at me, send me out of the class, do whatever, but I could not understand what was on that board. I didn't understand the fact of using letters in maths, algebra. That was even more of a mind fuck, basically. But all through school, it affected me. But on top of that, there was something else. I didn't know what it was. My emotion. I mean, I struggled to deal with my emotions. They overwhelmed me. I was a very, very emotional child. There were things with my childhood that at the moment I'm not going to go into, but there was things that affected it. It was unsettled from a very early age. Daddy issues, you could say, whatever. I had like emotional issues that would build up inside of me, and I would not know how to express them, how to deal with them, what they meant, and it could be very overwhelming. And I would look at other kids and think, are they going through this? Is this a normal thing, or is it just me? Probably there were, like looking back, there probably were some other kids that did have certain issues and that. But to me, I just knew I didn't fit in, and I really tried hard, but something was stopping it. I don't know what it was. And I think that's where I can look back and I can sort of think about the high functioning autism. I struggled in a social sense in school. I always felt the outsider. It was drummed into me in school, don't get into trouble, don't get into fights, but then also in the other side, if someone starts on you, don't put up with it, fight back. So I had both ends of it, and it was, what do I do? I think in the end it was just freeze, because do I do that? Do I do that? Or just stay in the middle? And that's what I did. And I look back on it now, and if I could relive my school days in a different way, I know my confidence would have been different. Not saying that I'd have got into every tear up it was about, but there'd be some kids out there now that had some, I don't know, classroom sort of like points won by the fact of, I won't fight and because of whatever like that. But if I could go back and I could change all that, there'll be some kids out there now that would have confidence issues, because what I would change is any of them kids that tried to start me and I just had to back down because I didn't know what to do. That is one thing I'd change. I would have done it in the classroom to the ones who wanted to start. I would have just jumped up and bang like that. The ones in the playground afterwards, I would have just gone for it, because I think that would have changed dramatically my confidence from leaving school. I took a long time with my confidence. There was a lot of things that affected it like that. I'm not saying violence is the answer, but it would have given me something inside that I would have believed in myself more. So not only was it the stuff that developed inside my brain, the way that manifested itself, but also I suppose with my upbringing, that had an effect as well, because maybe if I had a bit of a free rein like that and got into a bit more of a rough and tumble in them sort of situations, some of it would have evened itself out, and then that confidence might have subdued some of the other emotional issues, but it didn't. Obviously I can't change what's happened like that. Upon leaving school, I had to work on my confidence through the things that I read, through the things that I watched, listened to, music I was into, all of them things. I had to put in so much work, so much, but then that that was tiring as well though. So with the ADHD, I would flip between books. I couldn't read that book for long. I'd have to go to that one and watch that film. And then, like I said, my memory, I have read and watched so many things. I've put in not hours, but weeks and months and years, if you added it all up, of what I've done to try and improve myself. You know, it was as if it's been a life course for me to take on. It would have cost a lot of money to do this sort of course, but you know, you have to invest time if you want to change things. If I'd just left it and I hadn't have done all that, me now would have just absolutely crumbled to bits. God knows what position I'd be in now if I hadn't have somehow had this inner fight in me that wanted to sort of push back and get out there and do stuff. I did, to aid my confidence, I did turn to alcohol, you know, around the ages of 14, 15, 16. Like a lot of kids do, that they have that drink, but you know, they get pissed. They don't touch it again for a long time, and that because they don't like that feeling of being sick. What it gave for me was a false confidence, because all of a sudden it was like, wow, this feeling I've got now, it was like a shield, and I could go out and I could be sort of in a way the person that I wanted to be. And from that moment on, that got me into a whole world of problems, huge problems that affected my life for the next 15 to 20 years. Born about, not out of harm, not out of wanting to be horrible, but born out of the fact of just wanting to be confident and wanting to actually do something good with my life. But through doing that, something bad turned around. And I'm not passing the blame on anyone, because I always believe that you have to own anything you do, whether it be good or bad. Why blame someone else? Blame someone else, then you can't change something. Whatever choices I made, it doesn't matter my surroundings, I chose to do them things. I chose that path, albeit if we're somehow sort of engineered in a certain way, but you make them choices, you've got to own them. You can't ever blame anyone else. It's a cop-out. It's absolute cop-out. I picked up that first drink. I loved the feeling it gave me. I love the confidence, false confidence, and it just went off from there. But it helped comfort my ADHD, autism, and it made me into a different person. It enriched that humour I've got, it brought that out, it made me more crazy, it made me the person that I thought I could be, that wanted to bounce around, be on top of the world, to be famous, to have some sort of actor, singer, footballer, musician, just something. I needed to be out there, I wanted to be famous, I wanted to be out there in the world. I don't know if it was like making up for lost time, but the other way that it affected me then though is because I was drinking. It was okay for the first few drinks, I was okay, but then I just wanted to carry on, and in the end it was just I drank to get drunk, and then although it caused me issues, I was still, the behaviour that I was showing was still coming from the heart, and it was still trying to come from a good place. Like if I thought there was an injustice going on, like Batman or something, that I had to try and right a wrong, even if it wasn't wrong that is affecting me. But then when you're trying to reason through alcohol, it just doesn't work, and it comes out in a completely different way. So, but I'll do a separate video for that and go into alcohol. But so the ADHD and the autism for me, with all of that, it was my character. Now, I don't think obviously there's no way of knowing the official figures, but whether it be half, a third of people out there haven't got ADHD. I do believe that. It's just maybe that they're not putting the work in, that they're on, or their parents encourage them to sit there and just watch TV constantly, or the newer sort of kids coming out with parents who are lazy and just stick iPhones in front of them, iPads, and do that all day. To me, that has an effect on the brain. So their attention's being affected by that. It's not the fact, or whether that causes ADHD, I don't know. But for me, if the ones now, get them kids out doing something else, interact with them. That's what I've always done. I'm not saying that they don't have time on iPads, but I draw with them, I play with them, I think up games that they can do, little challenges, sports. That's why I got them into martial arts. Not only is it good for the children, it's good for you as a parent, though, to realise that you're not just taking the easy route and just plying them with electronics to shut them up, to babysit them. Oh, I'll give them a bag of sweets and an iPad and I've got my life back. Why have kids in the first place? Is it a status symbol so you can show off? Even if it turns into something you didn't realise how hard it was going to be, it is what it is. So I think now that a lot of these cases could be down to the fact of children just not getting the quality attention that they deserve. Like I said, I do think that basically what that does, it cheapens the people who have got these diagnoses. The autism with me, yes, it's, you put it down as high functioning, or it would have been known as Asperger's. I struggle on the social side with things, and I try my best, but I've never fitted in with anything. Friends, family, I've never felt comfortable, and that's nothing against them or anything they're doing wrong, but I've always felt like I'm an outsider. Even in my own home and people were around, I'd still feel, have I said enough? Am I doing enough emotionally, and what am I coming across like? The alcohol brought that down and made me, ironically, feel normal-ish. But through giving up alcohol for coming up for 17 years now, I've had to yet again go through a metamorphosis of change and work on myself again. But then I think that really that's part of life. I think really we should be working on ourselves and changing things at every stage of our life, even up until old age. It gives us something to strive for. It's a lot of things really. But when I got them diagnoses, it didn't change anything. All it did was it ticked so many boxes that instantly I had this feeling of seeing parts of my life when I was younger, all the way through up until that point. It was like an open little box in each snapshot of my life. Like when you have to click your pictures on your iPhone or something, if you want to delete them, and you put a little tick or a little mark in there, it literally went dun 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 like that for a lot of events where I thought that made sense. Okay, I was acting like that because of that. It wasn't me being stupid, it wasn't me being naughty, although yes, there would be times naturally that anyone could be a bit stupid or a bit naughty, there were other times when I thought, I don't get why I'm acting like that. But for me, that answered so many questions that needed to be answered. That actually brought me to a place where I thought, I feel a little bit better now, because that makes me understand it's not an excuse, but it explained. And I think just as much, if not more, having the autism diagnosis gave me more acceptance of a lot of occasions about my emotions and the weirdness I felt. Not just the fact of I can't retain that information and I wish I'd be able to read a book and then just remember facts and figures and stuff from it. It was the fact of it doesn't matter how comfortable I felt in a situation, it still wasn't right. It didn't sit right with me. And all of that is churning away inside here. So mix that in with the ADHD, and it's been a constant battle with stress. I suppose you can align that with anxiety. Yet again, not to make excuses or for a sob story or anything like that, because fuck that, it is what it is, but I can't let that define me. But it took me longer to work out how that interacted with my life and what I had to do. Why, even within martial arts, when I was doing boxing, with remembering like combinations, I couldn't work it out. It's a bit like I had to find my own way with the moves, rather than going in an orthodox way like that. Same with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Trying to remember what positions I was getting into, I couldn't go along the route of learning in the way that was being